Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'm so excited to meet all of you over Zoom. Definitely feel free if you feel comfortable to turn on your camera if it's not already. I'd love to just kind of get to know everybody and happy, of course, throughout the presentation, after the presentation, after the session, to happy to help, anyone with anything they have on their minds. So today I'm going to talk really part about my own career journey, because I always feel like it's helpful for me to hear other people's career stories, to as I kind of continue to evolve my own career. I feel like a great expression is, a career is not a destination, it's a journey. And it's true. And you're all just beginning your journey. But I'm still evolving my journey, and so is Sky and Sarah. And then the second part is going to really be just kind of talking about ways to authentically build your network now. So you're able to kind of tap into it in the future. So that said, kind of start off with my my career. So this is the very early years. I was an anomaly and was always interested in, quote, marketing and advertising. But, in the third grade, I didn't really know what it was. I knew I really liked logos, and was exposed to it. I remember in school. And I started, and I don't think Sarah and Sky know this, or anyone on my team, but I started a paper cup collection with logos from different brands, different restaurants, things like that. I was just very fascinated with it, and with marketing and advertising. There was something there. Then by the time I was in seventh grade, most people are asking their parents, hey, I'd really love a new outfit, I'd love new shoes, new bag, whatever. I wanted a subscription to Ad Age, which actually is pretty expensive. I don't know if I would pay for it myself. Lucky I get it for free. But they actually bought it for me, and I look forward to getting it every week. The hard copy version, now it's digital. Just to kind of learn about the industry. I was fascinated with David Ogilvy at the time. And then I took a class, it was like a course almost in seventh grade, where you get exposed to kind of different subject areas and careers outside your core classes. So one of the units we had was advertising, and we had to develop a campaign for something. It was like a print campaign and so forth. So the album cover here, which I'm sure none of you have heard of, including Sarah and Sky, we had to develop, a group and I had to develop a campaign for a hit song at the time, 99 Red Balloons, and to promote the album and the song and so forth. And that got me really interested in marketing and advertising as well. So then, in high school, I took electives in marketing, and I actually sort of started my own business a little bit, and went to a program at University of Pennsylvania called, oh my God, I can't even remember. I think it was Entricon. It was for budding entrepreneurs, and kind of loved that, that whole experience. Ended up going to Binghamton University, which back then was SUNY Binghamton. And I knew I wanted marketing, but didn't really 100% know what it was. Again, majored in management, concentrated in marketing. And I'll get to this later, but part of the reason why I'm so passionate about working for the A&A Educational Foundation is that, it's like when I was starting out, and it's still the same case, is that, when you're looking into careers in marketing, it's much harder to find information about it and to inject that reality into the classroom. All of my friends in school of management that were going into accounting or finance or consulting, everybody came to campus, there were clear career paths, and they had their jobs by January of their senior year, and they were partying for the rest of the semester, and they were all set. But someone like me, who was actually, interested in marketing, really needed to be scrappy. So I ended up volunteering at the Career Development Center for 2 years. Absolutely loved it. Got to know all the counselors. I ended up, they were hardcover career guides in marketing, career guides in advertising, that I literally, borrowed and read like a Bible to kind of figure out what are the different types of things that I could do. ended up also finding out through the Career Center about an internship program through the Direct Marketing Educational Foundation, similar to what we do, but it was through the DMA, the Direct Marketing Association. And it's similar to MAID, where they, I applied to them, they matched my, they pre-vetted my resume, my application, and then they matched me with different employers. And I ended up working at Doubleday Book of Music Clubs out on Long Island, which is where I live. And then we all came back into the city periodically, all of the interns together, to learn from industry experts. And that was a really amazing kind of life-changing experience for me. So for those of you who are part of the MAID intern program, you're so lucky. I think it's the best thing that the ANA Educational Foundation has, and I'm sure you're going to love it. Okay. And I was also involved in the American Marketing Association on campus, but I honestly don't really remember what I did. I know I was on board somehow. Okay. So as I was nearing the end of my senior year, what I did, using the career guides and all the knowledge that I had from the Career Center, I knew I liked marketing, but I also liked publishing at the time. So I sent out a lot of cold resumes and cover letters to publishing companies for marketing positions. I ended up working at Scholastic as an advertising coordinator for their magazines towards professionals. So it was for elementary school teachers, or for coaches, which is funny. My husband is actually a phys ed and athletic director. He still receives the magazine, so it all comes full circle. And what my job was to receive what's called insertion orders, which are basically contracts from brands and agencies to the magazine to purchase space in the magazine. So I was responsible for receiving them, entering all the information in the database, making sure that if there was a competitive separation, so Gatorade, for example, was a big advertiser and Scholastic Coach, and they always had, opposite table of content. So I had to make sure once the magazine was put together in blue lines that they received the, what was in their contract and that everything looked okay. I got some great proofreading skills from there. I'm still like very detailed about proofreading to this day from my experience at Scholastic. But while it was an amazing company, great work-life balance, great people, if I stayed at Scholastic, my career path would have been being promoted in a production role. So it was figuring out, what paper stock should we be using, and going to more press checks and things like that. And I really wanted to be in marketing. But what I did learn is I got to know a lot of the advertising sales reps. So the sales reps that sold advertising space to brands and media companies, agencies. And I learned through them, and I went back to that advertising career guide and learned that media planning existed. I vaguely remember learning about it in a chapter in a textbook in Binghamton, but I really didn't know it existed until I went to Scholastic and kind of learned from the sales reps, and then went back to career guide. And at the time, and it's still the case, media planning, you really need, someone with strong, writing and math skills, someone who loves advertising, someone, who's creative in a quantitative and qualitative way. And I just felt like it was a great fit for me. So I ended up going back to the drawing board, sent out more resumes and cover letters blind to I wanted a large advertising agency. I wanted the on-the-job training, and also the organized training for assistant levels as well. And I wanted to work on a bigger brand, for my resume and my own experience. So I ended up working at Gray Advertising, which is now Mediacom, for about 2 years on Procter & Gamble, which is amazing training ground. Like, they are one of the largest advertisers, period. It was a lot, it was a lot of work, a lot of hours, but I still keep in touch with people from there and through my whole career. And it was an amazing experience. And I worked on brands my first year, like CoverGirl and the quote unquote fine fragrances like Giorgio and Red, and the launch of Hugo. And then I worked on Pantene for my second year as well. But while Gray was a great place to start and I learned a lot, it's, you know, it wasn't where I felt I wanted to stay. I wanted another experience. I still wanted to be in media planning, but wanted to move somewhere else. So a friend of mine from Gray moved over to J. Walter Thompson. She said, "Hey, Marnie, there's a spot here. Why don't you interview for it?" So I went over to J. Walter, and, you know, and worked on Warner Lambert, which is now owned by Pfizer. The main brands are, you know, were Schick and Rolaids. And then switched over to Unilever and worked on a brand called Lever 2000 that doesn't even exist anymore, but it was very hot at the time, trust me. And then what happened was in the early 2000s, there was a shift where media departments, which really were a part of the full service agency, like J. Walter Thompson, like Gray, and they were really more in the back end. So account management, quote unquote, would liaise directly with the client, and they would talk to us and say, "Hey, we need a media plan," but they would present the plans to the client. And we had very limited kind of face-to-face client interaction, and kind of didn't have as much control over deadlines and things like that. What happened was in the early 2000s, a lot of the big holding companies spun off their media departments with their own P&Ls, own companies. It was awesome. So J. Walter Thompson and Ogilvy Mather merged together to form Mindshare. So I went over with Mindshare. What was also exciting, I was working on the Unilever business at the time, and Ogilvy had a part of that as well. So did a bunch of other agencies, and Unilever decided when we shifted to Mindshare to consolidate all of their business with Mindshare. So, you know, so we won this, you know, this huge account and, you know, merged with Ogilvy. I worked on Vaseline, on Country Crock. Then I think my favorite account, period, in media planning was Gillette. I worked on Gillette when we won it, and then ended up losing it because Procter and Gamble bought Gillette and brought it to their own agencies. But it was amazing. I worked on the razors and blades and the personal care, like shave gel, and they owned Right Guard and Soft and Dry at the time. And it was great. You know, agency life is, you know, it's, you know, the big pros are you get to work on different types of accounts. You always, you know, nothing is stale, like things are always moving. It's very young. You get to meet a lot of people, not only internally, but externally through your clients that you're working with sales reps. I still keep in touch with, you know, most of the people that I've worked with through the years. I also, towards the end of Mindshare, I also what became responsible for our internal training program called M Academy, where it was really, you know, working with all the different departments of Mindshare and getting everyone to share what they do with everyone at the assistant level, so they could get a sense of, you know, what we do at Mindshare and kind of what the industry is like. And I remember listening to someone senior talk about like, "Oh, no one's going to read magazines and newspapers anymore. Everyone's going to have a tablet." And I'm like, "What is he talking about?" And then here we are. So anyway, it was that was an amazing experience. And what I found was I ended up really over time loving the training part of my job and getting people to kind of share and learn versus my media planning day job. And then 2009 happened with the Great Recession, and I found myself and all of my friends were all laid off from Mindshare. I knew I wanted to do something different. I loved marketing and advertising, but I didn't want to be in agency life anymore. While it's great and you could work on different pieces of business, you know, sometimes your schedule is not your own. Sometimes I felt that the work that you didn't 100% see the light of day or didn't get executed because of changes internally or at clients. And I feel like in general, if you know that you don't want to be your boss, it's time to go. And I didn't want to be my boss, ultimately. So so I knew, like, my daughter was young at the time, and I said, "Oh, you know, when she goes to school full-time in kindergarten, I'm going to look for something I really love. So Mindshare kind of made that decision for me, which ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me, because I ended up getting the job at A&A, which I love. I started in April 2009 in the conferences and committees team, and was responsible for programming agendas and marketing our national conferences, our regional members only conferences, committees, and webinars. And I got to work on a lot of great industry initiatives like media transparency, where we were hearing from our board members that agencies were receiving kickbacks and rebates from media companies and not necessarily passing that money on to the client. And we hired, K2, which is an investigative organization, to really see, like, is that really happening? Is that true? And found that yes, it's happening. And then worked with another company, Ubiquity, to kind of give some guidance to companies like, okay, we know this is happening. What do you do about it? And we really affected a lot of brands who now relooked at their contracts with agencies that they hadn't dusted off in like 10 years, for them to recoup, what they lost, and really made a difference in the industry. So I have been in this role for, for about almost 12 years. But it's funny, when the A&A Educational Foundation was first acquired by the A&A, I'm just super passionate about the A&A Educational Foundation's mission of bridging the gap between academia and reality. And I love, working with college students. And I kept kind of like trying to see if there were openings, or a fit. I did an event once with marketing to millennials between myself and the AEF, and luck would have it, a position opens up a couple months ago, and was able to finally move over and be where I feel like I belong. Where now my role at the A&A Educational Foundation is to really, drive awareness of it, because a lot of marketers and agencies don't even know we exist. So that's one goal. And it's really to drive revenue and donations through talking to companies about donating A&A University membership. So universities don't have money for A&A memberships, and to get all the content and attend committees and conferences and certifications and training and so forth. So it's, working with companies to help, to convince them like, hey, these universities really need more marketing reality in their classroom. Would you give an A&A membership to them? And then we're launching a new partner program soon. And then we have our annual honors night, which is a fundraiser gala. So it's getting people to buy tables to that and make donate memberships and donations in general. So far so great. I love it. And what I would say is I'm sure all of you guys are doing this already, but just in case, I highly recommend to everybody just to follow AEF.org on Instagram. I think Sky does an amazing job just kind of informing all the students on what's going on. And, in this way, you'll be able to take advantage of great free things like this, webinar series that are available. And then finally, in my spare time, as I said, I'm very passionate about working with college students. I mentor for 3 universities, for Binghamton, for NYU, and Baruch's executive year-long program. And I also am a mentor through the Made Mentor program. I started last summer. I'm going to be a mentor again this summer. Love it. Hopefully you all signed up for that, because I think mentoring is probably, I wish I had a mentor. When I was going through this, I kind of figured it out myself. I know how much of an impact, I know as a mentor, you can make, that I've made on some of the people who I've worked with, and vice versa. So it's just a really special relationship, and you have someone who's just on your side trying to help guide you through your career. So anyway, I do that. And then I also speak on campus. Now it's virtual. I've spoken at Binghamton a bunch of times, Baruch, Marist College a couple months ago, now today. And then I'm also a board member for Binghamton University's marketing alumni group. So if any of you happen to be from Binghamton, we have a group called the TBMC, the Binghamton Marketing Collective, that now is virtual on Upstream, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and open to not only alumni, but students. So it's a great way to network with alumni. So I'll kind of stop there just to see if there are any questions. I know I've said a lot before I move on to the next piece. Okay, I'll move on. So, so now talking about building your network. So the way I look at building your network, it's almost like you're building a savings account, right? You want to make sure that you put away enough money so you have it when you need it. So, I always tell people, I tell my daughter, and she has a savings account, right? Start saving now. Start saving money now, right? So start building your professional network now to make sure that you've curated and you have enough authentic relationships saved, quote unquote, for when you're going to need them. So the first step, if you haven't done this already, make sure to create a LinkedIn profile. And you want to make sure there are a bunch of resources that you could take a look at to, help you maximize your profile. The first one is, searching LinkedIn help to, for how to create a good profile, and you'll get tips that way. LinkedIn in the past couple of years also has learning webinars where you could search on there, and they give you plenty of tips on how to maximize your profile as well. I also found that through General Assembly, I don't know if you're all familiar with that company, especially during COVID, and I think they still give them as well. They give a lot of free webinars on different parts of LinkedIn. So they had one on that I listened to. They have one on how to build your About Me section, how to build yourself as a personal brand, how, best practices for your overall LinkedIn profile and what to maximize. And then just like a couple of, it's not in the slides, but just a couple of tips that I would give you is make sure your headline has searchable keywords. Because believe it or not, it works. When I changed my headline to that versus just using it as, SVP partnerships or SVP committees and conferences, all of a sudden, I was coming to the top of people's lists for searches for certain things. So it definitely works. And also in your About Me section, make sure that you have the right keywords in there, whether they're separated out or within the overall text and the story that you craft for yourself. And also within the experience section, that should really try to mirror your resume as much as possible. So it's almost like get your resume down first and then kind of bring it into LinkedIn. A couple of other tricks that I've learned are there's a section where for skills, you can have people, you can add skills, and then you can have people recommend you for those skills. So if there are certain keywords that you want to be searched for, let's say it's digital marketing, send an email to 50 people and say, can you just endorse me for digital marketing? And then all of a sudden that will come to the top as a high skill for you. And then recruiters will search that and find that. And then finally, I would say, in general, you want to try to get a couple of recommendations from either supervisors or colleagues. It could be, anybody, maybe with the exception of your parents, but anybody that you've worked with, just to kind of help, boost the credibility of your profile. And then once you get your profile set, it's really, start connecting with any former or current colleagues. It doesn't have to only be your supervisors, anyone that you work with, any family, friends, acquaintances, because you never know who knows who. And a lot of time when you are searching for jobs or you're searching for, for for help on something, when you go into your network, you'd be surprised on, who your second connections are and how you could leverage your first connections to help make introductions for you. So some other ways to build your network, whether it's on LinkedIn or not, is to definitely tap into your alumni directory and any alumni affinity groups, like meaning if you're in clubs or you're in, a sorority or fraternity or what have you, definitely work to build your network that way. I've found some of the best connections I've made, period, or through the Binghamton Alumni Network, whether it was through the Marketing Alumni Association or me literally tapping into the alumni directory, which I've done in the past couple of years and made some connections. Because when you reach out to someone that's gone through your school, you have that immediate connection. Like I know when anyone reaches out, when everyone connects with me on, invites me to connect on LinkedIn, I connect with them right away if I see they're in Binghamton. Like I don't even care who they are, So so that's a really rich resource, and it's something that I think a lot of people like nowadays, 20, 30 years later, forget about. And and it's a great way to just like build an immediate bond and then a lasting bond after that. I also recommend attending virtual conferences to learn and network with attendees online. This webinar series is a great example. Even though you're watching the webinar, you could see who else is on it, and you can, kind of private message people and, say, hey, I would love to connect with you. I love the question that you asked, I would love to, chat afterwards. There are also events through some of these online networking groups that I'll talk about that you can attend as well, and they're free. So the first one I want to talk about is Serial Marketers, and that's the web address is right there. It's a great group that was started by David Berkowitz, who is also a Binghamton University alum and an industry leader. He's been in senior roles at 360i, which is a big digital agency. A lot of, I can't even remember the companies he's been at. And in the past couple of years, he's curated this group of 2,000 plus, I think he's probably at 3,000 at this point, marketers at all levels, from college students to super senior level, where he curates his own events that are free if you're part of the community, and joining the community is free. He does have a couple of premium services, but I don't recommend doing any of those. It's really if you wanted to be like a preferred partner or something like that. Everything, 95% of it is free. He has a lot of information on there about getting jobs, a lot of ways to network, whether he has a Slack community, he has a community on Upstream that I'll talk about in a second, and runs events either through his platform or through Upstream. And it's just a great way to see who's there and kind of get to network, whether it's at one of his events or just through Slack, or even just receiving his weekly emails is actually of the most value to me, because he's really of the mind of he wants to help his community. He's really a mensch and just does whatever he can to help, like set up office hours with him to pick his brain and network with him about jobs. The second group that I recommend checking out is Upstream. So it's an app for now. The last I heard, they're not desktop yet. So if you just download it from the Apple Store or what have you, it's free, and you just create an account. It's really simple. And then you can search for different, communities within the app that you can join and either attend their networking events, network with people within the groups. There are a lot of groups, a bunch of groups around marketing, and some of them that I recommend checking out are First Serial Marketers has a community on Upstream. There's another group called Worthy for 30 that meets every other Thursday, I think at noon. And That's moderated by someone named Eric Tash, who is a senior digital marketer. Right now, he's working at BioCodex. He's worked at Prestige Brands and Luxottica. With the way upstream events work, it's a great way to network. It's a half an hour total. The first half is 15 minutes is usually the host doing a Q&A. So Eric will have a special guest each time. It's usually a CMO or someone senior who does good in their spare time, and he kind of talks to them about that. And then the second half is 3 5-minute speed networking one-on-one sessions where you'll be randomly matched with someone else who is attending the session. And then 5 minutes is just the perfect amount of time to get to see, like, do I want to talk to this person more or not? And then you can connect with them on LinkedIn and either continue the conversation or, hey, it was nice to meet you. I find those events really helpful and a great way to, to build your network. And finally, the last one is Lunch Club. I haven't taken advantage of this myself. I created an account, but what I would say, what I've heard from a lot of my colleagues is that it's a great way. You fill out a profile, it's also free, and then you really get matched well with someone who you want to network with, and you spend 30 minutes, quote unquote, having lunch with this person, and you could say, I want to meet with people once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever. And, it's a great way to kind of build your network, like in a more of a rich way beyond just like a 5-minute speed networking. Okay. Oops. I don't know why this. Oh, okay. So then once you're kind of starting to build your network, what you may want to do is put together a list of people at your target, like brands or companies that, that you'd love to work at, or you think you'd love to work out. And then, reach out to them one-on-one, on LinkedIn, or ideally try to use whatever connections that you have to either receive a warm introduction to this person, to ask them to see if, they would be able to set up time to have a 30-minute informational interview. This is the time to do this, like while you're in school, while you're kind of exploring different careers. The best way to find out is to talk to people. Just keep talking to people. And I kind of put like my own template. Obviously everyone will edit as they see fit, but it's sort of like, hi, my name is Marni Gordon. And this was to, someone who was in my alumni network. Thanks for accepting my invitation to connect. And I kind of wrote a sentence about, COVID, because it's, a difficult time right now. I found your name in the Binghamton University directories. I'm interested in pursuing a career, in marketing. Would love to hear about your journey, becoming a brand manager, said as an example of Coca-Cola, and any advice you could share about the process. And then, just kind of ask for a meeting. And then, if they don't have time, any thoughts or advice via email, LinkedIn would be great. I've done this a lot in the past, and 98% of the time they'll get back to me right away, or they'll get back to me at some point and be happy to set up time to talk, because people are, especially if you have a mutual connection, or even if you don't. I mean, I've reached out to people cold. People like to talk about themselves, and they like to help other people. You're not coming at them cold and saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. If you hear of any, let me know. That's going to fall flat right away. You want to start to build authentic relationships with people. You want to listen to them. You want to hear what they have to say. And then, once you, actually, I don't want to go ahead of myself. Once you get on the phone with them, it's really kind of, asking them about their journey and, what advice would you share, for someone like me, any, getting started. And at the end of the conversation, you may want to end with, is there anyone in your network? Is there anyone else in your network that you think, I should connect with, or you think, might be helpful? And most of the time they'll either come up with names on the spot, or, when you follow up, they'll make a connection for you. Cause it's kind of like, hopefully every conversation will lead to at least another conversation. And the more people you talk to, the more information you get, the more you build your network. And then ultimately you kind of, get to your next step in your career journey, whether you want to move jobs or stay in your job or what have you. What you also want to do is make sure to send a thank you note, definitely within 24 hours max of each informational interview, whether it's, email or if you connected with them originally on LinkedIn, just so you show that you appreciate their time. And then, once you have that initial meeting with, with that person, what you want to do is over time, try to kind of build an organic, authentic relationship with them, and really be in kind of like a helpful and a serving mindset. So you're connected with them on LinkedIn and you see they got a new job, wish them congrats. They post an article, like it or love it. If there's something that comes up that, that you naturally kind of have a question about or could kind of make it up, and you want to, make sure you're continuing this connection, reach out to them and ask them for additional advice, in general. Something that was interesting with me, and I would never take this person up on it, nor really expect, anyone to do this, but someone that networked with me, from Binghamton actually said, I really appreciate the time that you took to talk to me. I'm really good at Canva now, and if you ever need, help with logos or anything with it, I'm happy to do that for you. And I was kind of like, wow, that's really nice. I would never do that, take them up on it, but it just showed me that, the person really appreciated, my time. And so it's just sort of like, if you don't think of how can this person help me, you think about how can I help this person? And then when I need help from them, then they'll be more likely to jump through hoops to help me. So for example, now I'm in a role where I'm asking people in my network to see if they want to donate A&A University memberships. I've worked over time to really just curate my network in general, because I authentically, I feel like I am a helpful person. I want to pay it forward, and I, want to help people out, as much as I can, whether it's at work or finding a new job or, especially during COVID. So people see that and they remember how much I went out of my way to help them. So now when I'm asking them like, hey, do you have 30 minutes to chat about what I'm doing? And, maybe you guys might be interested in donating a membership. Sure, no problem. I'll set up a meeting with you, as opposed to if I didn't, keep in touch with people or help them when they needed it, I probably wouldn't be getting these meetings. So it's just kind of like a real life example of how that works. And then finally, just in general, here are just my overall career lessons learned. Life's too short, do what you love, and it's like careers, again, is like, it's not a destination, it's a journey. Don't feel like your next step is your last step. Try something. If you think you like it, try it. If you don't like it, you'll do something else. It's never going to stop for you. You're never going to be too old to change what you're doing. I've found personally, if you like your boss, then chances are you're going to love your job. I've felt like your boss has a lot to do with your experience and the people around you and the team that you work with as well. And it's all about relationships. And that's what this presentation is about. It's, making sure that, that you're constantly, building new relationships, really caring about the ones that you have at, all around you. You never know, it's especially in marketing and advertising, it's a small world, and you never know who will have worked for you or worked with you or you worked for that you're going to see again. and you have to ask for something, and you want to make sure that you're all on good terms. So especially like as you're leaving an organization, you want to make sure that, you know, your transition is, you know, is very clean, and that, you know, you leave on a good note, because you never know. So yeah, so hopefully this was helpful. Here's my LinkedIn. Definitely feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I pretty much accept, you know, any invitations, except if it looks random from some foreign country. And definitely, if you're not already, follow the ANA Educational Foundation on LinkedIn and on Instagram for all the latest news. We have so many amazing resources for students. Like, I've just been spreading it on my own network because I've, you know, been working with a lot of college students. I'm like, you need to take advantage of this, like yesterday. Like, I wish I had this when I was in school. So anyway, so I'll get off my soapbox, and that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Marnie. Yes, if you guys have questions, feel free to jump off mute. I also do want to encourage you all to put your LinkedIn profile URLs in the chat so that you can start building your network right now. There's no better time to start than now. So I hope you all can connect with each other. Oh, good. Sarita Ramirez, Valerie Fong, thank you guys so much for adding those in there. We're also taking questions. So feel free to come off mute and ask your question. Anything at all?
You know what, Marnie, I can start. Once we get back to in-person events and, you know, conferences and things like that, do you have tips on networking in person and how to actually approach someone in person?
That is a really good question. I feel like it's been so long, I have to like remember. Yeah, no, I think, you know, it depends. It's like, I think so let's say at a conference, you want to try to, you know, it's tempting to go to an event with coworkers and stick with them the whole time. But you're not going to meet anybody that way. So, you know, kind of try to go off on your own, you know, introduce yourself to people, sit at a table kind of by yourself, but with other folks. Take advantage, you know, go to any like networking receptions or dinners or any opportunities that they'll have at conferences that you can meet new people. You know, it's a great way especially if you're sitting next to somebody, you know, at a dinner, you know, you're there for a while. So it's a great way to meet people, you know, and just kind of feel like, you know, that, you know, comfortable just introducing yourself, because everybody is, you know, is shy in their own way, and no one is going to ever, you know, especially in business, turn you away or make you feel funny about, you know, you coming up to someone and talking to them. Yeah, that's what I would say. And then, you know, hopefully, you know, instead of just scheduling kind of these informational sessions over Zoom, hopefully we'll be able to do them, you know, in person over coffee like we used to.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll add to that too. So I have a mentor, and she knows that I can be a little bit shy sometimes at networking events. And so she said that her little trick is to go up to someone and compliment them. You know, I love your shoes, I like your shirt, and then that's a good way to segue in. So if you guys feel a little bit funny about approaching someone, that could be a good way to talk to them.
That's a great idea.
Good one.
I just want.
Yep.
I just wanted to add my own tactic. I was gonna put it in the chat, but I figured I'd, you know, step out of my comfort zone and actually verbalize it. But my way of doing it as someone who's like shy also is to actually find someone who seems pretty shy too. Like they seem to be like alone and in the corner, and they're probably as nervous, if not more nervous than you. So for someone to go up to them would be like a relief. So that's, to me, that has worked out really well, because it seems like they're like, oh, okay, I can be comfortable with this person because, you know, they went out of their way to say hi.
That's a great tip, Gianna. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks for coming off mute for that. That's awesome.
Okay, so we have a couple of hand raisers. Isabel, you want to come off mute?
Yeah, hi Marnie. Thank you so much for this. This was really helpful. I know a lot of us are about to get our made mentor assignments, and I was wondering, having been a mentor, if you have any advice for like our first initial like conversation with our mentor, or like any topics that maybe we can cover as we like just begin to build that rapport with them?
Definitely, and I'm so glad you asked that question. I have definitely a point of view. So I've worked with different mentees who, I guess in my opinion, some have like fully taken advantage of our relationship, which is awesome, and some who I feel like could have leveraged it more. My advice is to really use the first session as kind of like a get to know each other, so you'll kind of learn your mentor's career journey and history. They'll kind of hear about yours. And then like you as a mentee, should figure out like, what do you want to get out of the relationship? Like what goals do you want to set? What do you want to learn? And set those goals with your mentor. And then over the next couple of sessions, really, decide, like really put some thought into, before you meet with the mentor, like, what do you want to get out of it? How can that person help you? And what do you want to accomplish in that session? And then ultimately, the more you can also build like an action plan and accountability around your meeting, the better, because it'll force you as the mentee to work on whatever it is that you want to accomplish. So like, for example, there's someone who I mentored this semester who a lot of people are like really want to learn how to network, believe it or not. This is a hot topic, and they their goal was to kind of try to get themselves out there, and she ended up at the end of it setting a goal for herself, like, I'm going to reach out to these 10 companies that I identified for myself, and set up informational interviews by the next session. So it kind of helps you move toward whatever goals it is that you set for yourself. And like it's funny, I had a the opposite experience where I had a mentee who I set aside like an hour to talk to, and every month she would ask me a question or two, but we would end by 10 minutes, and I'm like, is there anything else I can help you with? Like, so I feel like she got X amount out of it, but she could have gotten so much more. So this program is probably like, this and the intern program in general is like the most special thing that the AEF has. And having a mentor it doesn't have to be just the summer. It could be like, lifelong. I keep in touch with a lot of my mentees well past, our engagement. So I guess my advice is like get to know each other, set goals for each individual session, and really think about what you want to get out of it. And so you can help your mentor help you. That makes sense.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. Emma, you're up.
Hi, thank you so much again, Marnie. That was really awesome to hear your story and your tips. So my question is, I've been like reaching out to some like employees at like companies that I'm interested in working with and doing informational interviews like you were talking about. And I've gotten at least one like recruiter email and sort of reached out to them. And like, I feel like it's a good thing to be setting up that relationship, even when I'm not like actively looking for an internship like right now. But I guess like, so the one that I reached out to, she was like, hey, it was great to meet you. We don't have any positions open right now, but like stay in touch, blah, blah, blah. But I just don't know, like, what does stay in touch mean? Like, I guess more, how do you like keep that connection going without like bothering that person with like unnecessary information that you're just like taking up their time and filling up their inbox?
So this person happened to have been like a general recruiter or a recruiter from a specific company?
From a specific company, yeah.
Okay.
I got their email through an informational interview with an employee that I did.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think, definitely connect with this person on LinkedIn if you haven't already, or invite her to connect. And then, you can so one way is to kind of see what she posts and comment on her posts, in an organic way, not like, oh, here's a job and, and then you comment like, oh, I'm interested in this job. Like, don't do that. I see people like my age doing that and I cringe, but it's more of like, oh, thanks for sharing this great article, or, or you could, like or love the, her post. You could think of like over time, and it's not going to come to you today, but over time, like, oh, what's something else that I could pick this person's brain on, or what's a question I can ask them, so depending on what, what your conversation was about, like, so maybe it's like another question, like a quick question about, advice on, as you're going through your career journey, whatever that may be, and just kind of reach out. That's what I've done in the past, like, someone who I may not be necessarily interested in a position or anything available at that moment, but even it's just like, hey, it's holiday time, like, hey, I just wanted to wish you and your family a great holiday, look forward to staying in touch in 2021 or 2022, whatever year this is. So it's sort of, you could use like holiday time to kind of, and I'm not saying to keep in touch once a month, but every, like, if you ultimately want, it's like, what year are you in school?
I graduated in December, so
okay, perfect. So yeah, perfect. So like every like 2-3 months from now through when you're getting ready to December, just kind of like think about like an authentic email that you could send and see what she's doing on LinkedIn. And then as it comes closer, to December and you're graduating and, let's say you either A, see job opportunities, or B, you want to approach her about job opportunities, like, hey, I'd love to, connect, and you could even think of some sort of advice you might want to ask, or, you said, I know, I'm staying in touch, would love to connect and see if there are any opportunities available, but you don't want to let it go from when you spoke to them until next December, because then it'll fall flat. You know what I mean? Does that help at all?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay. We have time for another question. So Jordan, you're up.
Hi, Marnie. Thanks for speaking with us today. My question is actually really similar about how to maintain a really good mentorship. But since that you already answered that, I was wondering if you're going into an internship or when you're in the internship or job, what should you do before to network? And then while you're in it, if you have any recommendations, and then also if you leave like a current internship or job opportunity, how to just still have that mentorship or connection with anyone you worked with, and just really facilitate and maintain those and stay in touch.
That's a great question. So I think, once you start your internship, I would ask your supervisor to see if they would be open to making introductions to you. So let's say, I'm just like making this up, you're working at an ad. Actually, do you have, where's your internship?
NBC Universal.
Oh, all right, perfect. I actually know someone at NBC Universal you need to meet. So
okay, perfect.
So anyway, so connect with me afterwards. Okay. But I would also ask your supervisor, like, hey, I would love to also just get to know different departments within NBC Universal so I could learn more about the company in general and see what other people do, and see if they would be open to making introductions for you to different people in departments, and you could set up 30-minute meetings with these people. To like the same, it's really informational interviews, like, what do you do at NBC Universal? How do you work with my current department or not? So you can kind of, and especially, I know it's harder now in the remote environment, but people are more willing to speak because everyone's so caged in here. I know, and they're like, sure, I'll build in, 30 minutes to talk to you, or 15 minutes or whatever. You can call them coffee chats. you know, that's what I've done in the past. Like, oh, listen, I'd love to have a virtual coffee chat, you know, with different people that you think it would be great for me to meet within NBC Universal, and have your boss make those introductions. If there are people that you've kind of virtually met and you know of, that, you know, you could reach out to them yourself, like, hey, I'd love to get to know you more. Would you be open to having a virtual coffee chat with me? So I would definitely network and learn more about the different departments and even the people in your own department just by setting up these meetings. This way you're building relationships with them. You make sure you're connected on LinkedIn. You keep in touch with them afterwards. You know, some you're going to gel more than others, you know, but still, like, it's a great way to build relationships. And then afterwards, it's really kind of the same thing. It's like organically keeping in touch with these people, you know, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's, you know, hey, you know, I hope you have a great holiday, you know, hope you have a great Thanksgiving, like however you feel is appropriate to kind of keep the conversation going, so that when you are looking for, you know, for a full-time job, you have these people in your bank account and that you could tap into. Hey, I'm ready, you know. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, well, that we're out of time, so that just about wraps it up. So another huge thank you to Marnie for her terrific and informative presentation. I hope you all learned a lot. We did record today's session, and we'll be posting it to our website next week in case you want to rewatch it. I'd also like to mention again before we go that we're partnering with the Interactive Advertising Bureau, IAB, this summer, and we've actually planned a session with them next week on Thursday, May 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you've ever wondered why or how a certain ad pops up on your Instagram feed, or you're just interested in digital media in general and how it works and how to get a job in it, this session is definitely for you. Leading the session are speakers from companies such as Pandora, Hearts and Science, TikTok, etc. Sky will put the link to register for this session in the chat, so make sure you do that. And that is just about it. So thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks.
Thank you.